Well, welcome. For those who are from beyond our county lines, welcome to Atascosa County. And we're here today to celebrate some really great history, and I'll be very, very brief, but I wanted to let you know that on July the 22nd in County Commissioners Court, our county commissioners voted unanimously to declare today William Green Winsett Day for Atascosa County, and I wanted to present my cousin David a copy signed by each county commissioner and our honorable judge Robert Hurley with the resolution, and we'll give that to you at this time.
Thank you.
It's signed on the back. It's recorded in by the county clerk, and so that's for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's basically all I have, but we're going to enjoy this history and everything that we're going to learn today. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right, we're going to do the pledges. And my little brother Mitchell's going to come up and lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. All right, and then at this time, my dad, Ronnie Pipes, is going to come up and do the
You're okay. The tree will get you though.
Trying to get out of its way.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to you today for this occasion. We thank you for what it signifies, what these flags symbolize. Thank you for men like my great-great-great-grandfather William Green Winsett and others like him, who you placed your hand on and called to be defenders of the people of Texas. We thank you for those who serve now in that capacity, the Texas Rangers and all of the other men in uniform and women in uniform. We pray your blessings on them. Thank you for the opportunity to gather with so many friends and family members for this occasion to honor and commemorate the life and the service of William G. Winsett. We ask your blessings on this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, well, if I didn't introduce myself earlier, I'm Devin Pipes. William Green Winsett is my great-great-great-grandfather. That's my dad, Ronnie. My grandmother was Susie Winsett, and she married Pipes and then later Rush. My great-grandfather was Roy Winsett. His father was John Oliver Winsett, and John Oliver Winsett's father was William Green Winsett. So at this time, I'm going to read a biography that I have prepared about the life of William Green Winsett. William Green Winsett was born on October 5th, 1840 in Washington County, Texas, near Brenham. He was the first of 10 children born to John Winsett and Judith Henderson. William Green Winsett's siblings included Martha E. Winsett, Frances Henderson Winsett, Lavinia Jane Winsett Edwards, Hugh Milam Winsett, Sarah E. Winsett Peoples, Mary Clementine Winsett Carruthers, Georgia Ann Winsett Schreier, Joseph H. Winsett, and Serena Wilson Winsett Schreier. John Winsett was born in 1814 in White County, Tennessee. While little of the family tree is known past John Winsett, recent DNA technology has confirmed that John's father was a man named Silas Winsett. Even less is known about Judith Henderson and her family, but we do know that she was born in Arkansas sometime in 1820. John Winsett and Judith Henderson both managed to wind up in the newly formed Republic of Texas and found and fell in love with each other. They were married on October 1st, 1839 in Washington County, Texas. Texas won independence from Mexico at the Battle of San Jacinto in April of 1836. The United States would not accept Texas as a new state at that time, so Texas became a sovereign nation until the United States was ready to welcome Texas as a state. Early citizens of the Republic of Texas were eligible to apply for large land grants. John Winsett had been in the Republic of Texas by October 1st, 1837, and qualified for a large land grant certificate of 640 acres in 1838. John Winsett cashed in on his certificate in Guadalupe County, Seguin, in 1848, and the clerk of Commissioners Court who accepted the land certificate was William Tom. Remember that name? In 1845, Texas was admitted as the 28th state, and with the help of the United States forces, managed to fight and defeat Mexico again in the Mexican-American War, which was fought beginning in 1846 and ending in 1848. The 1850 U.S. Census lists W.G. Winsett as a 9-year-old boy living in Guadalupe County with his father John, a 35-year-old farmer, and his mother, Judith, a 30-year-old mother of 4. Their neighbors included the William Tom and his family, and John Files Tom and his family, which included Sarah Carolyn Tom, W.G. Winsett's future wife. William Tom brought his family to Texas in 1834 with a double certified letter of good character signed by 34 people. William Tom was one of the early Texas Rangers and served under Captain Philip Coe and Colonel John H. Moore before and during the start of the Texas Revolution. William Tom's oldest son was John Files Tom. The father and son duo fought side by side in the Texas Revolution. They fought in the Battle of Conception and the Grass Fight, and also in the Siege of Behar. The Tom duo left the Alamo and headed towards home to help with the runaway scrape, but John Files Tom went on to fight with Sam Houston at the Battle of San Jacinto. John Files Tom's kneecap was shattered by a musket ball in battle. William Tom was instrumental in founding Guadalupe County and was the first county commissioner. John Files Tom was elected sheriff of Guadalupe County twice in the 1850s. One of William Tom's second great-grandsons, Tom Howard, later became sheriff of Atascosa County. John Files Tom became a Texas Ranger in 1861 under the command of Captain Claiborne Rector before becoming a Texas Ranger captain himself. The Tom family were model citizens who would have been looked up to by the community and especially by their young neighbor, W.G. Winsett. The Campbell family intermarried with the Tom family several times. One of the Campbells left Seguin and founded Campbellton in Atascosa County. The Winsett family followed suit and moved to Atascosa County. The 1860 U.S. Census lists W.G. Winsett as a 19-year-old stock raiser living with his father, John, a 46-year-old stock raiser himself, and his mother Judith, a 40-year-old mother of 9. The Winsett family were neighbors with Charles and Ellen Campbell Tom. 1860 was an election year, and Abraham Lincoln won the presidency. America was sharply divided over issues of slavery and states' rights. Several southern states, including Texas, broke away from the Union to form the Confederate States of America. The American Civil War, or the War between the states, began in 1861. Texas only had a few small battles, while most of the major fighting occurred farther east. Texas supplied a lot of men to go and fight for the Confederacy, which left many areas without the men and weapons to defend themselves properly from Plains Indian attacks, which included the Comanche, Apache, and Kiowa. The Texas Rangers were the best means of frontier defense during the Civil War. Texas was still very much a frontier to the north and west during that time. 22-year-old W.G. Winsett enlisted as a private in the Texas State Troops, or Texas Rangers, under Captain Thomas Rabb on January 15, 1862. W.G. Winsett served from February 27th until June 30th of 1862 at the rate of $12 per month plus allowances for clothing, supplies, and food. his total pay amounted to $102.47. Before the Civil War, there was no organization by the official title of Texas Rangers. Between the Mexican War and the Civil War, they were called out in emergencies, sometimes for periods of up to 6 months, but never became a permanent institution until 1874. The tendency has been to picture them as an elite fighting body, when actually they consisted of citizens who lived in the frontier counties, men who by necessity learned the art of plains warfare from their enemies. For the most part, they were an undisciplined group of civilian volunteers who would follow only men they trusted and who had proven themselves in battle. As these Rangers or Minutemen companies were usually called out only in an emergency, the Indian raid had normally already taken place. The Rangers' job was then to pursue and, if possible, destroy the retreating enemy. The withdrawal of U.S. federal troops from the frontier of Texas at the start of the Civil War required the Texas Rangers to become a more organized group, and the men recruited to join had to be over 18 but under 45 years of age, a good rider and marksman, a person of good moral character and not a professional gambler or habitual drunkard. Each man was to provide his own horse, saddle, blankets, canteen, 6-shooting pistol, and if possible, a shotgun or rifle. While W.G. Winsett was serving as a Texas Ranger, his father, John Winsett, ran for Atascosa County Commissioner and won August 4, 1862. John Winsett frequently served as the presiding officer of the elections at Precinct Number 8, and he served as Atascosa County Commissioner during the year of 1863. W.G. Winsett, along with Captain Rabb and the rest of the company of the Texas State Troops, were absorbed into the Confederate forces. The company had requested to be transferred to Company A, McCord's Frontier Regiment, Texas Cavalry, but were all subsequently made into Captain Thomas Rabb's Company D, 33rd Texas Cavalry, Duff's Partisan Rangers, 14th Battalion Cavalry. Winsett was enrolled January 1, 1863 at the Rio Grande Station and mustered into Confederate service on January 24, 1863 at Camp McCord. He was most likely doing the same job that he had done in the Texas Rangers at first, but they were funded by the Confederate government rather than by the state of Texas. He eventually served with the Confederates throughout Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Indian Territory. He was eventually taken prisoner of war, and on September 12, 1865, he was allowed to return home, not to be disturbed by United States authorities so long as he observes his parole and the laws in force where he may reside. W.G. Winsett married Sarah Carolyn Tom on April 9, 1867 in Atascosa County, Texas. Sarah C. Tom was the daughter of John Files Tom and Mary Ann Moffett Tom, who's buried right there. On May 20th, 1868, W.G. Winsett recorded his brand in the Brand Registry Book of Atascosa County. And I don't understand what the brand is. I was looking under the W's. I thought it'd be W for William or Winsett or something. But the brand is either a D.I. or a D1. So the best I can figure is that it's a D1 and he just meant Evan was number 1. W.G. Winsett filed for a Texas land grant on June 8, 1868 in Atascosa County for 160 acres, but he decided to abandon the land and buy land elsewhere in both Wilson and Atascosa counties. Judith May Winsett was the first child born to William and Sarah Winsett on July 25, 1868. On November 23, 1869, W.G. Winsett was able to register to vote after having lost the right to vote for a period of time because of his Confederate service. The 1870 U.S. Census lists Will Winsett as a 29-year-old stock raiser living with his 23-year-old wife Sarah and 2-year-old daughter May in Wilson County, Texas. The 1870 U.S. Agriculture Census of Atascosa County lists W.G. Winsett as having 980 head of cattle, in addition to 30 milk cows and 17 horses, which were valued at $3,365. John Oliver Winsett William and Sarah's only son, was born on July 24th, 1868 in Somerset, Texas. The U.S. federal census showed that Winsett had been helping his father raise stock since 1860. The Texas County tax rolls for Atascosa County show that by 1865, W.G. Winsett had 70 head of cattle. By 1867, him and his brother, F.H. Winsett, had a combined total of 800 head of cattle. 1868, W.G. Winsett had 600 head of cattle. 1869, 825 head of cattle. 1870, 930. 1871, 1,230. And in 1872, he's back down to 1,030. And in 1873, he had 0 head of cattle. Only 5 horses and 2 mules remained. So these numbers raise the questions of why was the cattle head count, why did it grow so exponentially from 1865 to 1867, and then never really grew much after that, and then why all of a sudden it dropped down to 0 in 1873? W.G. Winsett filed a Texas cattle claim in April 1873, which states that he had a ranch about 12 miles south of Pleasanton, Texas in Atascosa County, and that he had had 1,600 head of cattle branded with his legally recorded brand in 1866, and in addition to the original parent livestock, he branded 2,150 head of calves. On April 25, 1873, Winsett only had 700 head of cattle, and between 1866 and 1873, Winsett had 3,020 head of cattle, which were wrongfully taken and driven into Mexico by armed bands of Mexican raiders, or armed forces of Mexico acting with the knowledge or of the recognized government of Mexico. The value in gold coin of the United States of America of the cattle were $10 per head. The total loss, therefore, was $30,200 plus interest. The Rabb Commission was sent out in the 1870s to gather testimonies of the witnesses of these Texas cattle claim cases. However, the National Archives have been unsuccessful in locating the original claim by W.G. Winsett. The claim was picked back up later in the 1930s by Winsett's heirs. W.G. Winsett's in-laws had moved to Atascosa County, and John Files Tom was elected state representative on November 8, 1872, and he served during 1873 and was part of the occupation of the Capitol building known as the Coke-Davis Controversy, and became known as one of the liberators of Texas for ending Reconstruction. Mary Ann Moffett Tom was visiting William and Sarah Winsett when she became sick and died on June 23, 1873, and that's why she's buried here. Willie Winsett was born on January 16, 1874 in Atascosa County, Texas, and she was the third and last child born to William and Sarah Winsett. W.G. Winsett died on May 14, 1874 at age 33 of unknown causes. Speculation on his cause of death could range from he was in an accident, or he got sick, or perhaps during one of these Mexican raids he was killed. We don't know. Surviving W.G. Winsett was his daughter May, who was 5 years old, his son John Oliver Winsett, who was 1 year old, and his daughter Willie, who was almost 4 months old. His wife Sarah was 29 years old. William also passed away before his parents, John and Judith Winsett. May Winsett named her son William Green Winans after her father. William Green Winsett's father-in-law, John Files Tom, remarried in December of 1873, and his firstborn child with his second wife was named William Winsett Tom. William Green Winsett had been a pious member of the Old Rock Baptist Church and an earnest and zealous Mason whose charity knew no bounds. W.G. Winsett's probate record lists all of the possessions he left behind, including 168 acres of homestead land valued at $372, with $1,600 of improvements on that homestead, 340 acres of land valued at $170, $355 in horses, mules, oxen, hogs, and a buggy and covered wagon valued at $325, one shotgun and 2 pistols valued at $30, one watch and chain valued at $40, and 37 hives of bees valued at $111. So he was a beekeeper. $400 of household and kitchen furniture and etc. The total assets left behind were worth $5,804.98. So that was all that his wife and 3 young children were left to live off of. And they had 0 head of cattle. Sarah Tom Winsett never remarried. She lived with her children once they grew up. She filed and received a Confederate widow's pension in 1905 before she died on February 9th, 1922. She's buried in an unmarked grave in Paris, Texas. May Winsett married Ed Winans and P.W. Goodman and had 3 children with each. John Oliver Winsett had 3 children from his second of 4 wives, Martha Ella Gunn, and Willie Winsett married Robert E. Lancaster and had 3 sons. In 1935, San Antonio attorney T.M. West had each living heir of W.G. Winsett sign over a 1/2 interest in their claim to the $30,200 plus interest in exchange for providing legal services to secure the claim and for researching to find all necessary evidence for the case. Agency file number 3217 contains over 200 pages of evidence and legal documents, including copies of the 1868 Winsett Family Bible history pages and a copy of a certified letter from the Pleasanton Masonic Lodge after W.G. Winsett's death. The burden of proof was to establish that W.G. Winsett was a U.S. citizen, how many, what kind, and what the value of the cattle were that were stolen, and the fact that the theft was done by Mexican nationals. These points were proven as best as they could, but in 1947, Mexico denied payment of the claim, along with many similar cases of cattle theft that occurred in the same time and same area. On top of the tragically early death of their loved one, the Winsett family never received any payment for their stolen cattle. So that's the story of William Green Winsett. So up next, we've got Ray Martinez. He's going to come up and tell us a little bit about the
association. Was formed in 1897, and the purpose of the association was to preserve the history of the Texas Rangers, and not only that, but also to take care of the descendants of the Rangers, because at the time there was no retirement system, so to speak. Whenever the Rangers went out of business, or they retired or quit being Rangers, there was no retirement, so the families did not have any income, so to speak. So in case there was a burial, they needed some money to bury somebody, that's where the association came up and took care of the descendants of the former Texas Rangers. And as he said a while ago about the Rangers when they first got started, and the founder was no one else than Stephen F. Austin, the father of Texas, who formed the Rangers in 1823. And their mission was to protect the people, the settlers. They were bakers, candlestick makers, or cabinet makers, whatever they were, in the professional life. But when the emergency existed, those people answered the call and they went out there to protect the settlers, so to speak. And like he said, most of the time the incident already happened, but you could presume and make sure that you could eliminate the problem for future times. Now, Rangers were not just, like I said, the peacekeepers out here, but they were also the shakers and the makers of the state of Texas. They were highly selected people that Moses Austin selected. Stephen F. Austin. Moses wasn't dead. But anyway, for instance, I'll give you a few examples right here. Tom Frost, the Frost Banks, there's one example. The Schreiner Shriner Institute in Kerrville. And one of the most famous Rangers that left his mark was Saul Ross. He was a governor. He was a Ranger, he became a governor, and later on he became the president of Texas A&M, and Saul Ross University is named after him. So there were a lot of people there, a lot of examples I can give you, but I could just go on, and I'm not. But you know, there are 28 counties in the state of Texas that are named after Rangers. And so I can tell you that the Rangers of old were mean, lean fighting machines. Yeah. You know, people always see them in the movies as 6 foot, 6'5", 300 pounds. But you know what they would do to a horse? It'd kill the horses. So the Rangers of old were lean, mean fighting machines. Like I said, like John Hayes. He was about 5'8", about 165 pounds. But they could deliver. So anyway, the association is for the descendants, for former Rangers and their descendants. So you people that are descendants of the Texas Rangers, please join our organization, because the more that we can have, the merrier it'll be. Right now, to this date, we have marked over 600 graves like this to honor our Texas Rangers, so that people can go into the cemetery and look and they say, there lies the Texas Rangers. And we have marked over 600 since 1999. So we want to keep on doing it, and please help us by joining the association. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to show my family members, if you join, you get one of these certificates like this, and they have dinners every year that we can go to. And anyways,
I'm not cooking.
You're not cooking? Okay. Well, I've joined, and I've got 5 direct ancestors that were Texas Rangers. And so anyways, up next is the cross unveiling. So Dad and Sharon, come on up. So this is Sharon Walker, great-granddaughter of William Green Winsett. And no big deal out of it.
Oh, that's so heavy.
Okay, and then, Wade. This is Wade Winsett, a great-grandson of William Green Winsett, and he's going to read the Ranger prayer for us.
O God, whose end is justice, whose strength is all our stay, be near and bless my mission as I go forth today. Let wisdom guide my actions, let courage fill my heart, and help me, Lord, in every hour to do a ranger's part. Protect when danger threatens, sustain when trails are rough. Help me to keep my standard high and smile at each rebuff. When night comes down upon me, I pray thee, Lord, be nigh, whether on lonely scout or camped under the Texas sky. Keep me, O God, in life, and when my day shall end, forgive my sins and take me in, for Jesus' sake, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, and at this time, now we've got a slight mistake on the program. The Black Rose ceremony is going to be done by the Texas Society Order of the Confederate Rose, Alamo Rose Chapter 4, and they are affiliated with the Sons of Confederate Veterans, Alamo City Guards, Camp 1325.
No, that's not right.
Not right?
It's a standalone organization.
Well, they're friends. Something like
Friends.
friends, okay.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah, they're taking pictures.
Okay, and the Alamo City Guards went around and put little Confederate flags on all the Confederate graves here at the cemetery. So we thank all of you for that.
would like to invite any of the family, any of the ladies that would like to show respect to their ancestors, if they would like to come and get some rose petals and put them on the graveside, that is very acceptable.
Are there any of the female relatives that would like to put some
Get some rose petals to put on the grave, feel free to do it. Ladies. Okay.
I'm Richard Brewer. I'm commander of the Alamo City Guards, Camp 1325. We're located in San Antonio. And just a couple of words about the Sons Confederate Veterans. We've been around since the 1890s. And our deal is try to continue to spread the truth about our ancestors and the good things they did when they were fighting for the Confederacy. Now, of course, we're under attack from a lot of folks. And so we've even started the program called Make Our Ancestors Great Again. And we're wearing dog tags for that very reason. I'm with the Alamo City Guards. Behind the officer here is our flag. That flag, Alamo City Guards flag, actually is a copy of the one that was made in 1859 when they were a militia unit in San Antonio. And of course, they used that throughout the Civil War. The original of that flag is stored in the Alamo, and you can see it if you tour it there. And of course, we like to think that when General Twiggs surrendered in San Antonio in 1861 in February, that if these guys had not been there and done what they did at the Alamo, full of explosives and all that, may have just been blown up like was happening in other places. But we think they preserved the Alamo too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank you again to the Texas Society Order of the Confederate Rose for the ceremony. Thank you. At this time, we want to invite the Honorable Judge Robert R. Hurley from Atascosa County. He's going to come up and read the Masonic Lodge letter from 1874 that was written to the family of William Green Winsett after he died. Thank you.
My name is Robert Lee Hurley, and I'm the present county judge of Atascosa County. I am also a master mason. I've been one since 1976, and I'm privileged to read this. This is the record of W.G. Winsett's. He was raised in October 30th of 1871. In general, when that's written, it means he's raised a master mason. That's what I assume it means. The stated convention of Cooper Chapter number 101 of Royal Arch Masons was held in the lodge room of the town of Pleasanton on Saturday, the 4th day of July, A.D. 1874. And I don't know what AI 2408 means. The members present were J.H. Tackett, A.G. Martin, L.E. Johnson, L.S. White, W.N. Smith, W.H. Smith, H.L. Harrison, J.S. Fuller, J.C. Harrison, H.L. Harrison, A.G. Martin, and J.C. Harrison. The chapter of Royal Masons opened in ample form. The death of W.G. Winsett being announced on motion, Comps L.E. Johnson, W.H. Smith, and A.G. Martin were appointed a committee to prepare suitable resolutions commemorative of Mr. Winsett for adoption by the chapter, and were required to report instant to it, whereupon they submitted, and I'm reading directly from the minutes, whereupon they submitted the following, which on motion was adopted by the chapter to wit, Whereas it has pleased our Supreme High Grand Priest to call our beloved companion W.G. Winsett from labor on earth to refreshment in heaven, resolved therefore that we bow in submission to the divine will, that we recognize that Masonry has lost one of its most devoted adherents, the county a good and reliable citizen, and his family a devoted husband and kind parent. Resolved that in his death we feel our loss is great, as he had just become situated in life to be useful to his fellow man in the various stations he occupied. Hence we realize the fact that in midst of life we are in death. Resolved that while we would not profanely intrude into the sanctuary of domestic grief, we beg leave to offer to the bereaved family our heartfelt sympathy and condolence, and suggest that there is one who is good and whose mercy endureth forever, and he has promised to be a husband to the widow and a father to the fatherless. Trust in him. Resolved that we wear the usual badge of mourning for 30 days, that these resolutions be spread on the minutes of the chapter, and that a certified copy under seal of the chapter be furnished the widow of our deceased companion, L.E. Johnson, the committee of L.E. Johnson, W.H. Smith, and A.G. Martin. In the Cooper chapter, number 101 Royal Arch Masons, I, A.G. Martin, Secretary of the above-named chapter, to certify that the foregoing 2 pages contain a true copy of the proceedings of said chapter in regard to the death of companion William G. Winsett, same as they appear upon the minutes hereof. Witness my name and seal of said chapter at Lodge Room in Pleasanton, this 28th day of July, 1874. A.G. Martin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and at this time, the Moses Austin Rangers reenactors are going to do their black powder salute for us.
Ready? Aim. Fire! Recover arms.
What'd you jump for, Robin?
Get over it.
Aim. Fire! Recover arms. Aim! Fire! Recover arms. Face. Detail. This where you walked off. Thank you, partner. Thank you for the opportunity.
These are misfires. All up and misfire. Well, yeah. Look at the fire. Third one went.
What are you gonna call this shot? I got a guy that's certified for that. You going to? We're ready. When you're ready, let me know. Don't let it off. That's the important part. It will be after the first round. That's the most important thing on this service. I'll let you out. Poke a hole in that bag. Pop it with your all the way. Pull it out. You gonna put a cap? Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Hey,
Mike, let me know when you're ready and I'll yell fire.
Oh, come on, boys.
Back off?
The noise is pretty loud.
Fire in the hole!
Fire.
Hoorah!
How come there's no smoke from it?
Love the smell of black powder.